Hi guys, bringing you another video today, which is an update to a previous video I've done on M-1956, Australian modified M-1956 load carrying equipment. A few other bits and pieces I've picked up too, which are part of that set or associated with it, so this video will cover them. First of all, this mass of straps and things in front of me, anyone who collects American gear will probably recognise as the sleeping bag carrier, which can be worn on the back. Basically it consists of these straps here with a buckle which loop around the sleeping bag, so the sleeping bag passes through these straps here, and then these with the quick release, the lift the dot fixing here, go over the shoulders and attach onto the yoke, and then these little side straps that come off the back here, this would be against your back, these little side straps come round underneath your arms and stabilise the whole thing by clipping onto the on the front hooks of the harness. There are little loops that these clip through, and just with the press stud. Obviously Australian made, in form it's exactly the same as the American sleeping bag carrier, but you have this mix of American and British fittings, British style fittings that is. So obviously the webbing tips on the end of these straps are in the style of 1937 pattern essentially. You've then got the American, these buckles as well actually on the straps that go around the sleeping bag are the same as a 1937 pattern. And then these side buckles here on the little stabilising straps are American. But again, you can see the use of the broad arrow there to mark. So to mark this as Australian made. So yes, that's an Australian made sleeping bag, M56 sleeping bag carrier. So the next bit we've got is, I may have covered this in the previous video, I can't remember, but it was attached to the webbing. I thought we'd have a closer look at it, which is essentially 1937 pattern form Bayonet Frog, but it's designed to work with the M1956 system. Obviously it has hanger hooks to use the eyelets on the belt, and broad arrow mark at the top there, as you can see. And this is essentially the frog that was made to go with for carrying the self-loading rifle, the L1A1 bayonet. This is the frog that was produced to go with the set. Next thing, not analogous to any American component, but is the Machete Sheath, which takes a Golok type machete, which there is a video of British-made Golok, which will show you the form of the blade, and this is very similar to the British shape of the British sheath, except ours hang from the top. This has a length here that means it hangs lower on the belt, but you can also use that to hang it a bit higher, use that as a belt loop. See the back here, it's marked up. A little bit tatty condition, but not too bad. The press stud does work, obviously hanger hooks there, little pouch on the front to take a sharpening stone. So that's a rather nice addition. Again, not analogous to any American piece of equipment, but made to go with the Australian modified M56 equipment. Now have an Australian made example of the first aid, the dressing stroke compass pouch, which I can hopefully get the flap open off one-handed here, because unfortunately the camera, one second, there we go, you can see in there, just this lighter green canvas material, obviously with the Australian sort of the nylon edging here, and obviously always the green press stud is a good way of marking out Australian made equipment. Just nice to have an Australian made example of that. It'll be going on the set to replace the American made one I have on there now. Not that American ones weren't issued, it's just nice to have American made ones were issued. Of course it's nice to have the Australian made version as well. Not part of the M1956 equipment, but associated with it in American and Australian service, was the collapsible 2-quart canteen. I believe it's 2 quarts, and this is Australian made version, again completely analogous to the American version, with the lift the dot closure at the top here, drain holes at the bottom, the strap which has a British style, again in contrast to British style buckle. They don't ever seem to have bothered putting an end on the straps, they're just loose. And obviously the bladder in here, you can see marked the broad arrow on the cap there. I will just remove this. You can have a look. There it is, in rather good condition. It is marked on the, it's 1971 dated. Focus on there. Come on, phone. There we go. Not sure if you can read underneath there. An AGM manufacturing company. And then you've got the Australian. So they did use, though they weren't part of NATO, they did use the NATO stock code system. So 66 is Australia. So that's that. There is a nicer version as well, which better shows. I've got this pretty much mint condition example, which you can see is actually marked with a broad arrow on the camouflage here. In this interesting camouflage material that was used, not only was this used, as the lining material in the Australian pack, it was also used to make the hoochie carrier, which we'll look at in a minute, and it was also, this pattern of camouflage was used on a raincoat at the time, which I don't have an example of yet, which I would like to buy. I'd like to have one of as an example, known as the coat psychological, because it's this kind of psychedelic camouflage pattern, quite distinctive of this period of Australian kit and equipment. You can see in there. I'm not sure if there are any other markings. So you can wear it on the shoulder strap, and also there's a belt loop on the back as well. They do both have that. As you can see, this is just a bit more worn, and this one's essentially brand new. I'd say that's what the camouflage scheme would look like originally on the other one as well. So that's nice to have both of them. Nice to have one in sort of you're using one, as it were, and one that's in pretty much mint condition. And last but not least, the aforementioned item, the hoochie carrier now, or hutchie. I've seen different ways of spelling it, but essentially this is for the Australian shelter system, which was essentially a tarpaulin with various loops and press-studded press studs and things to the edge, and eyelets, so that we're using paracord and pegs. You could peg out a shelter, basically. It's similar to the bashers and things that are issued by the British Army now, and still by the Australians now, made in Auscam material, but they were plain green at the time. There was a heavier version originally, and then they started making them out of nylon. Forget the dates of when that changed and so on. Single Alice clip, as they're now known, but the M-56 style slide keeper on the back there, and it just closes with this little eyelet on the front here, and the flap has a corresponding eyelet. Bring it in here, corresponding eyelet, and just a little length of cord there. And in here you would keep not only the shelter itself, the tarpaulin essentially, the hoochie, and a length of paracord or hoochie cord, as it was also known, to string it up and provide a shelter. So that went on your belt. Don't often see them carried. I'm not sure how much they were used. Obviously you can see this is still in quite nice condition, with the camouflage still fairly fresh there, and fairly easy to recognise, not worn off. This sort of coating, as you can see, it's just little bits of wear here. The coating starts to wear off. But yeah, another nice example. So there we go. That's the hoochie carrier, and some various bits, obviously not analogous to anything in American service, but a part of or attached to the modified M-1956 equipment. So I hope you found that interesting, and until next time, bye for now.